Go. All right. So we're looking at uh, our rocket body shape from last time, which isn't too perfect. Um, in particular, some places seem a bit fat and not very streamlined in terms of the shape. So we're gonna fix that here in this video. But before that, let's look at the outliner. Maybe it's a good time to do some organization, kind of clean up our files a bit here. Alright, so I'm going to select all the curves, as you can see here, and we need to group it. So you go to Edit, you'll see that there's Group, shortcut Ctrl G. So Ctrl G groups it all together. You can rename that group by double clicking on it, and I'll call this Curves. Press Enter. Expanding by clicking the plus sign gets you all the curves again. So all these curves are now inside this group called Curves. Alright, and maybe it's a good thing to rename each one of the curves. So I'll rename this one underscore body mid. Do the same thing for the rest depending on which curve this is. So the bottom will be underscore body BTM for bottom. Rename the top one, curve number 3, body underscore top, and curve the inside one, we'll call it body underscore I and S. Sweet. Alright, so this is all good. You can do the same thing for all the NURBS surfaces, all the patches that we created using the curves. So I'll select all of it and I'll Ctrl G and rename that group as NURBS. And then I'll expand by clicking on the plus sign again. And let's just rename each one of this. And we'll start with the one at the top, body mid. Double click that, paste that in. Copy that part. Paste that in. Copy this part, Ctrl C. Paste that in. And do the same thing with the last one. Alright, so that's pretty straightforward. It doesn't take too long. It will save us a lot of time later in the long run because it helps us to recall our objects very quickly without even having to think which curve belongs to which part of the rocket. So I like to do that. It may seem like a lot of work, but it's not really that bad. Alright, so now in this case I can select the curve 1 body mid and go to control vertex mode and select the points here at the bottom and at the top, probably the ones at the side. I want to resize it. I don't want it to be too fat because it does look a bit funny being too fat like that. And select those ones there and bring that in. I want the shape to be a bit more, how to say, more streamlined and not too rounded and crooked in place. And that requires you to select control vertex and nudge it bit by bit. Select one at a time or a couple at a time and tweak it. I'll select the body top curve, go to control vertex. That allows you to, and you might want to zoom in a bit here. So I'm going to select this bunch of vertices down here, bring it in. So while I'm doing this, I'm always wary of how that looks like in the perspective viewport. I'm always checking to see whether that's giving me the shape I want here in the perspective viewport. And I can see that perhaps maybe I could select these ones here and do something about it. Bring it out perhaps, so that we get a nicer curve at the top. And probably these two can be expanded a bit. Right. So modeling is a lot of that. It's a lot of point pushing, if you can say that. You're selecting points, vertices, and maybe later on you'll be, when you're doing polygonal surfaces, you'll be selecting edges and faces and tweaking it bit by bit until you get the right shape going. Alright, so I'm doing the bottom part here. So I'm bringing that out. because I want it to look a bit more edgier. I want the edge to be more sharp in this sense. Mm. All right. Okay. Where was I? Right, so I decide to select all of the curve and bring it up a bit. All right, and probably expand that a bit. Sorry, a call just came in, so I had to look at my phone. Anyway, continuing this, you'll see that, from time to time, if you change a different part of the object, you'll notice that you need to do some changes in the previous part of the rocket shape. So don't be afraid to do that. If you feel that you need to go back to the previous curve, by all means, do it, because the idea is to get that right shape going on, and that always happens. You change one part, it will affect another, and you need to make sure that as you can see from the perspective viewport, it's starting to come together nicely. It's starting to be a much more streamlined shape from the top down to the bottom. All right, and I always open up the lab assignment brief and just to have a look at the 2D picture, the guide, the rocket ship picture that I'm using as a guide. All right, so now I'm doing the insides of the rocket, basically the red part in the 2D picture. All right, tweaking here, there, and there a bit. There's one part here that I'm not happy about, which I think I will fix in just a bit. Yeah, selecting all of that curve at the top and bringing it down a bit. Now that feels much more streamlined. Right, here's something you need to be careful of. When you're going to control vertex mode, it's a good idea not to do it on top of the mesh. Do it outside of it, see, in an empty area, as opposed to on top of the mesh. In an empty area, right click, right mouse button, and only then you can choose control vertex. That way you only choose the points on a curve if you were selecting a curve. So that's a tip that you can use. Always go outside to an empty area that's not, and don't place your cursor on top of the mesh when you're trying to go to control vertex mode. Right, I think I'm almost happy with what I have here. Just some small tweaks before we can call it a day. And yeah, this is just me. I'm always fussy with even the smallest things. So yeah, it's not too bad. Tell you what, I think I will call this a day. And this is pretty much a nicely done rocket body shape, if I can say so myself. So I'll see you guys in the next video when we do the wings. Bye.